much put them into the forum tonight. We welcome audience participation. I've been asked why we don't allow people simply to stand and ask their questions. It's a matter of efficiency, avoiding duplication, and frankly, avoiding grandstanding. Not that anyone in this room would do that. I would invite all of us to give each candidate, after they introduce themselves, a good round of applause. It takes a lot of courage to run and rerun, and sometimes rerun. But it really does take courage and strength. It's just not an easy thing to do. But I'll ask after that, for the remainder of the forum, if we could all withhold applause. It simply takes up a lot of time and interrupts the flow of the forum. Our goal tonight is to help the voters know who you are, what you stand for, not just that you might cut them open, so that we can all make an educated decision. And I'm talking about the hospital commissioners right now, the city council.
City council does a colonoscopy, right?
I have to say that I have avoided all the candidates like the plague during this election season. But in the little bit I've seen of them, this is a very congenial, collegial, collaborative, friendly competition among all of the candidates, which is really delightful. Not just for the hospital candidates, but for city council, wherever you may be hiding. We know that all of you want to be of public service, and in fact, you've all been of some kind of public service in your time in Anacortes already. But please, 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 in your answers, try and give us substantive information rather than you simply want to be of public service. We know you have worthwhile goals. We want to know how you plan on achieving them. Positions elected at the local level have always been important, but I think in today's climate of politics, local elections have never been as important as they are today. So I applaud all of you for participating. This forum is being recorded. It will be on YouTube if we're lucky, and otherwise in other places. We encourage you to share the link to it if you find this forum worthwhile, and tell your friends and neighbors, and make sure that everybody you know is registered to vote and that they actually vote. Okay, with that in mind, we've used up 8 minutes. Let me find my question. Oh, I meant to do something beforehand. I apologize. Could you pick a number between 1 and 10?
Okay. 7. 3.
Okay, you go first, because I was thinking 7.
I was going to say age before beauty. Here we go.
Well, we're going to start. Each of you has up to 5 minutes to speak. Anything you want to say, but I hope you're going to tell us who you are, why you're running, and then we have a few questions. So the floor is all yours. And there is a microphone.
Do I just sit here?
Please do.
Oh, that's perfect for me, actually.
Okay. And there is a microphone down there.
Well, first I want to thank the Sadava Democrats for inviting me to speak tonight. I really appreciate this opportunity to speak to the public. I'm Joseph Mulcahy. I'm a candidate for the Hospital Commission Position 5, and I'm running because I'm really concerned about the survival of the hospital. I am a general surgeon who started in 2009 at this hospital, retired about 3 years ago. Prior to that, I worked in North Carolina. Prior to that, I was in the U.S. Navy as a surgeon. Many people don't know what a hospital commissioner does. It's kind of like what city council members do. They set policy for the hospital. They can tax within limits. They can buy and sell property. They can use eminent domain. They should be and are the conduit between the community and the hospital itself. You probably might wonder why I am leaving retirement, which I have thoroughly enjoyed, to be a commissioner. And it starts with the levy list, the vote on the levy that I think was in April. I was asked by the hospital to help with that, and I did so without hesitation. The hospital, to me, is critical to this community. A lot of people move here because we have a hospital. It's a place where we should be getting excellent care in a timely fashion. And I think, the hospital tries to do that. But during the levy list, there was a whole lot of negative information on the internet that came to my attention. And I was frankly surprised. And when the vote came in, even though a majority voted for it, close to half did not, and half the population didn't even vote at all. And so that raises, to me, red flags about the hospital and its survival if it's not really supported by the community that it helps support it through its taxes. During that list, I was approached by numerous people who told me horror stories about the care they got in the ER. And horror may be a little extreme, but there were cases of patients that I just wondered what was going on. It seemed that the hospital's ER was not staffed well. They needed more people. There was just a whole lot of stuff. And then nurses began to approach me about what they described as a toxic working environment at the hospital. Since May, about half of the ER nurses have left. Recently, about 8 floor nurses have left. None of this was about salary, though they're paid less than every place around. This was about their work environment and how they were not feeling respected. I never saw anything like this happen in the 13 years I worked there. We must fix the ER, we must fix the working conditions at the hospital so that the staff are appreciated, pay them as best we can. I don't pretend to have all those answers, but I'm willing to try. I like my opponent personally. He's a great guy, really. He and his wife and 2 other people interviewed us when we came here. He should be applauded for his community service. But
for hiring you.
Well, that may have been your biggest mistake. But 18 years is enough, and I think we need a little different perspective on the board, especially now. Why should you vote for me? What are my qualifications? Well, I have prior board experience on 2 hospital boards in North Carolina, so I know something about that. I would be, if I'm elected, the only board member who actually worked at this facility and knows how it works. I am the only person probably who knows all of our representatives but one personally, and I have garnered the support of community leaders across the area. The firemen are supporting me actively through their union, the nurses, the doctors. That is why I think you should vote for me.
Okay. I first want to ask a quick question of the crowd. There's a 20% incidence of diabetes in this community, okay, which I think is pretty high. Not as high as the Southeast, but high. So here's my question to you. You don't have to answer it now, but I'm going to ask you at the end of my talk just to raise your hand. If we had the technology to tell you when you were 24 years old that you had a 90% chance of getting diabetes, would you change your behavior? Not asking for an answer now, but just let that simmer for a while and think about it. In the meantime, let's look at, this is some of the stuff is the antithesis to what Joe said. I've been a patient at Island Hospital. There was a nasty little bug that bored a hole in my stomach called H. pylori, which is a kind of an interesting story in itself. But what I did was, when I was in the hospital for several days, the nurses would come to talk to me all the time. And there were problems, but I don't think it was I didn't get the impression it was overwhelming, like Joe, from his impressions. And I'm not saying his are false, I'm saying I got a different impression. One of the nurses said she was going to Skagit, and I said, why? She'd been there for years, decades. And she said, I insure my entire family their health insurance through Island Hospital. And it was costing her $1,500 a month. And if I go to Skagit, it's $500 and change a month. And I said, that's ridiculous. And so what I did was I went to our CEO and I said, this is why we're losing some people. Interesting enough, she fixed it, and now it's the same as Skagit County. So that's just a problem at a local level. Anyway, moving right along. Let's look at Island Hospital is evaluated by a number of rating agencies. Now they don't drill down like Joe is drilled down with the staff and stuff like that. But the rating agencies that look at us all the time, our data, is Women's Choice, Leapfrog, Health Grades, Healthy Worksite Planning Committee, and the key one is the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, or CMS. CMS looks at 46 criteria to rate our hospital, and those categories are mortality, safety of care, readmissions, patient experiences, and timely and effective care. Each one of those, the top four is rated at 22%, the bottom at 12. Okay, we have received from the CMS a 5-star rating for 4 years in a row. How many hospitals north of Seattle have this rating? Any guess? None, just us. We are the only one that has that. Out of the state, which has 92 hospitals, there are only 7 in the state that have that. In 2024, there were 381 hospitals in the United States that had that rating. Interestingly enough, in 2025, 291. It dropped by almost 100 hospitals. There are 50,000 hospitals in the United States. Who are we in cahoots with? Cahoots the wrong word, of course. The people who get 5 stars, you probably never heard of these places. Mayo Clinic, NYU Langone, Mass General, Brigham and Women's, Cornell, Columbia, blah, 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 blah. So we're in pretty good company. And the interesting thing, too, is I did my training at Massachusetts General, at Boston Children's, and practiced at Swedish for almost 30 years. And the interesting thing is, the reason I took this job 18 years ago was kind of selfish. I wanted to see if I could get medical care up here and not have to drive to Seattle. And how many have driven to Seattle lately? Right. So anyway, and I found that these guys were as good, if not better, in some things at taking care of, especially our primary care people. Our strategic goal is to provide the best manner of care we can, so folks don't have to drive. Let's see. In the last 4 years, we've added 30 members to our staff. We've added urologists, orthopedists, pulmonary gynecologists. We have one of the few urogynecologists in the state. Support us by a whole host of other things that I only have 30 seconds to talk. So, let's see. Okay, yeah, I know. Now, the other interesting thing is I've been a patient at Island Hospital on several occasions. Fell off my bicycle and broke my hip, and they fixed it. And they did a good job. They did an absolute good job. The GI bleed was 4 units. This little bacteria poked a hole. My time's up. And a cardiac arrhythmia. I have always had excellent care in the emergency room, on the floor, in the operating room, and a host of that. So my perspective, not only from a patient, but a commissioner, and I'm done.
Pretty nice to have an embarrassment of riches in candidates. Chip, I'm going to ask you this question. You're going to go first, and then Jody again. improvement and what your proposal to accomplish the improvement might be. And fair warning, Joe, we've heard from you what's wrong with the hospital. We're giving you the 2 minutes to tell us what's right with the hospital and how you would support that.
It's obvious. Sorry, it's obvious we need work in the emergency room. The wait times, some of just the wait times they take care of the patients is ridiculous. And we are actually looking at that right now and drilling down on every conceivable thing going on there. There's an outfit that provides our emergency physicians called Team Health, and they've had problems. And so, and we lost one of our greatest guys. He got a divorce and got custody of his daughter, and he had to move to upriver to take care of her and work in the emergency room there, Justin. And what an amazing person. So those things, it's the workflow, it's the nursing situation, it's the doctor situation in the emergency room, and that we're working on that as we speak. And it'll take a while to correct it, but we will correct it. Because going through there, as a patient, I didn't have any trouble, but, did they think I was a commissioner, I needed special stuff? I don't know the answer to that. So
You have 60 seconds left. Can you give us some specific ways in which you think the situation is going to be improved, rather than just
generality?
Yeah.
Okay, we have a new nurse leader, and of course, like the military, the master chiefs run the entire place. Well, nurses run the entire place, and that's where it has to start. We've got a new leader there, and we're changing out staff, and that's one of the things we're doing. We've approached Team Health to provide the appropriate, appropriate staffing that we need. Also, we have some good staff. Make no mistake. In fact, our chief of medical staff came from the emergency room last time around. We now have a psychiatrist, so of course we feel better. Anyway, so that's it's at all 3 levels: nursing, just patient throughput, and physicians.
Thank you. I sat down to make myself more comfortable, but remember, they're the ones you really want to talk to. Joe, your turn.
Well, I think Chip has pointed out the things that are right about the hospital, and none of it has to do with the toxic work environment. What it has to do with is with the professionalism of the nurses that work there, because the nurses are the principal people who take care of the patients. So despite their working conditions, they continue to do that. Hooray to the nurses. But the nurses are leaving. Our experienced leaders are being walked out like they're criminals. Are you aware of that? Yeah. And I know, that's a wrong thing. I'm sorry. That 5-star rating is because of the doctors and nurses. Okay? So they're professional. And I applaud that they brought in these doctors, that they've shored up the family docs. But that is not helping the work environment. They're talking about that they brought in new people to run this, that. The turnover in admin is incredible. I don't know how many CNOs, chief nursing officers, they've gone through in the last 2 years. I don't know the exact number, but it's upwards of 30 administrators and mid-level people that have left or been walked out or fired. This is stuff that the community doesn't know about. The hospital continues to function, but it could function a whole lot better. It could function in a better way for the people who work there, and therefore probably for the patients as well. We would keep our experienced nurses. The best ER, on time up.
I'm going to ask a quick follow-up, Joe. Give you 30 seconds for it. So what are you going to do about it?
So in the ER, they definitely need more physicians and more nurses. No question about it. They need to find an outlet, and there is one possible for patients who are just waiting for transit, who are taking up a bed that can't be used. so that when anybody who's critically ill can be taken care of, or they can move through the wait list, or they can offload the people from the ambulance service who are tied up for up to 40 minutes waiting to offload. So there are ways to expand that. I would actually consider a moratorium on firing people and certainly eliminate this crazy walking people out. It's disrespectful to them. Many of these are long-standing, loyal employees that I know personally and trust. I would trust them with my life.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate the specificity rather than just generality. Yes. Every time you remind me, I sure can. Thank you. Thank you for that, seriously. Okay, so you're going to get this next and last question. You both identified shortcomings and strengths. Seems like funding is currently a problem, and it is likely to get worse. How are you going to deal with that and do all these wonderful things that you want to do with less money?
That is probably the biggest challenge overall for the survival long term. 2 minutes. Presently, Medicaid pays 57% of what Medicare pays, and Medicare doesn't pay the bills. How do we fix that? Well, that may come in the form of an election in a couple of years. I don't know that we're going to be able to do much about it. Maybe at the state level, but the state has already complained that there's a $2 million gap or more that they're going to lose from the changes in the law with Medicaid, and therefore no money is available. But we have to work through the local people to get that changed. That's the only way to improve that. But we can also take the ability to get private paying patients, keep them here. And that's critical. And we do that through improving our emergency room, which is the gateway to the rest of the hospital for many patients. They're admitted there, they're sent to specialists, orthopedics, which I applaud them bringing in. That's a potential real moneymaker, and a lot of those people are young and have good insurance. And they used to be taken somewhere else. They're not anymore. But we have to beef that up.
Same question? Okay. We've been stuck in a catch-22. Does anybody know what the EMTALA laws are? Betsy does, I know. What they are, they came out in the 80s, is that anybody who walks into your emergency has to be taken care of. They have to be diagnosed, not treated, but are they stable, are they not stable, etc. So what's going to happen with our fearless leader yanking even Medicaid insurance with a lot of these people? They are not, the people who are in this pot are not stupid. They know that if they get in a jam, they can walk in the emergency room and they have to be taken care of. And we've done projections, and we think that just that alone is going to give us an extra $4 or $5 million loss. So how are we going to get out of that? We don't know yet. To be quite honest, we don't know. And that's going to be things in the future. The community is exceptionally generous with our foundation, which allows us to do some amazing things. One of the questions I got asked by I guess that's what I could go off on a tangent, but I won't. Oh, is it? Okay. One of the things that I think it was a farmer committee or something asked me is, how are you going to reduce costs of medical care? And we are trying everything we can now. I mean, we have to pay doctors and nurses at the going rate, and they leave. And some of our nurses have gotten better jobs in other places because they're getting paid more. And I have not witnessed the toxic nurse environment, but maybe I'm not the right person to do that. And I don't want to contradict Joe because he sees things, he sees things from a different perspective. But the farmer said, how are you going to reduce medical costs? And I have 30 seconds, so I'll go real quick. I wanted to start, since I have my cardiovascular metabolic disease that killed my father at 54 and his brother at 56. I had the same thing, and I made it a little further than him. Oh, time out. So I want to do this quick program at the high schools, talking about high schools about cardiovascular risk. I might as well be talking to this doorknob over here. They don't want anything to do with it because it doesn't affect the kids. They can eat lard every day or Crisco for lunch, and they're not going to get heart disease. So we went back and asked them, what do you need? And they said, we would like mental health here. So you could walk in and just the kids could walk in and talk to somebody. And so we started that program years ago. The kids don't have to fill out forms. They don't have to do any nonsense. They can just walk in and talk to somebody. And that actually morphed to have somebody both at the high school and the junior high, and that's been amazing. So that's one of the things we just carry on and, we support.
All right. I want to remind everybody that there will be a break about midway through and also once the forum is completed, and you're very welcome to talk to any of the candidates at that time should they be willing to stick around. But with that, I'd like to give a hand to our two hospital
They need to be separated.
Cheryl, you can have this seat.
If anybody has questions they want to write down,
Everyone down here want a card with a question? Questions and okay. Anybody want a card?
Thank you. Excuse me for a sec.
Okay. There you go. Anybody over here want to?
continue with the city council candidates now. So you guys can zip it. All right. So we've got 4 candidates, 2 races. We have an incumbent, we have 3 challengers. Folks are going to start by, we're going to have our position 4 candidates, and I just put you in order that the PDC has put you, and then we'll rotate the order of the questions. I want everybody to note the website addresses on the board, pdc.gov.org/law. Excuse me. Is it pdc.gov or pdc.law?
I think it's that law.
Okay. That's where you go if you want to know how much money these guys are raising, if you want to know how they're spending it, and if you want to know who's giving it to them. Okay? It's a very self-explanatory website if I'm giving you the correct address. And then you've got the address for each of the 4 candidates' websites, and I commend you each for having a website. With that, we're going to start by having each candidate take 2 minutes to introduce themselves. Candidates, this is your opportunity. Tell us what you think is important. Please be sure to include why you are running, what your platform is, what are your qualifications, what experience have you in any other city capacity. All of that in 2 minutes, and we'll follow up if you don't tell us the first time round. Courier, why don't you start us off in 2 minutes?
Thank you so much. Good evening, and thank you to the Fidalgo Downs for hosting this forum. My name is Luke Courier, and I'm running for Anacortes City Council, position 4. Like many of you, I fell in love with Anacortes long before I lived here. I grew up across the water in Coupeville. I spent summers jumping off the cliffs of Whistle Lake. Had my high school prom dinner at Boomers, no longer there. And later, my wife Bev, who's my high school sweetheart and wife of 31 years, we spent our wedding night at the Majestic. When we moved here in 2020 with our Labradoodle Happy, you'll see in some of the pictures, we knew this was our forever home. Professionally, I bring more than 20 years of leadership experience. My career started in community banking. I launched 2 businesses during the Great Recession, which I owned and operated successfully for over a decade. And today I'm proud to serve as CEO of Land Title and Escrow, also a local company that's been around since 1940. And I also co-own Bar by the Sea Fitness in downtown Anacortes, which my wife runs and operates. Giving her full credit there. Alongside my work, I serve as an Anacortes Planning Commissioner, where I've spent the last year and a half working to shape the city's 2025 comprehensive plan. Quick plug, there's another public meeting tomorrow night, so come down to the city and give your input on that. I also serve as treasurer of the Chamber of Commerce, and I recently graduated from Seattle University with my MBA, and graduated in June from Leadership's Gadget, which was a great experience to connect here locally. These experiences give me a strong foundation in finance, planning, and community building, but they've also taught me how to listen, how to collaborate, and find practical solutions, all skills which I will bring directly to the City Council. My priorities are advocating for public safety. I'm committed to full police and fire staffing and expanded mental health crisis response, as well as providing additional natural disaster training and resources. Another priority is championing a vibrant community, supporting housing for all, safe streets and public spaces that foster belonging and enhance livability, promoting local economic vitality, and I'll serve with empathy and give it heart, and I'll pass it on because I had another paragraph.
Hello, everybody. My name is Teresa De La Rosa, and I am running for City Council position number 4 as well. Anacortes is where I've lived and raised my children for over 25 years. I have overcome many personal hardships and challenges. Challenges that give me a unique perspective to share with my community and City Council. I've lived through the deep deficiencies of our medical system, our social, financial, housing insecurities, and me and my children have faced the realities of racism here in Anacortes. The obstacles I've overcame, many can only imagine, and this has given me the strength, perseverance, and courage to commit myself to serving members of my community and to City Council. I want to be able to be a conduit for people in our communities that are facing these same and similar challenges. I hope to serve my community by connecting all of our communities with City Council to address our city's needs. And really, I want to advocate for the vulnerable, our senior citizens, our low-income families, and I really want to make this what our vision statement on City Council is, which is about inclusivity and diversity, and that will be my contribution as a member of City Council. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you to the Fidalgo Democrats for hosting this forum. My name is Courtney Orrock, and I'm a candidate for City Council position 6. I view this position as community service, something that is very important to me. I currently serve as a trustee for the Anacortes Library. I've never seen a turnout like this at one of our trustee meetings. So, second Mondays at 9 a.m., everybody.
In the past, I've served on the Anacortes Arts Commission and was on the steering committee for the Anacortes Futures Project. I've also been involved in many nonprofits in town, serving on boards as well as just being a member of the nonprofit. I live here with my husband of almost 20 years, Chad. We have a 6-year-old little girl. Her name is Collins. I have a 2-year-old dog, and my parents also live in Anacortes, but they would kill me if I told you how old they were, so I will not say that in public. One of the questions I have gotten consistently is, why are you running for city council? And for people that know me, they say that with a tone that they're almost a little bit worried about my state of mind. They're like, why did you choose to do this? My background is in finance. I have undergraduate and graduate degrees both in finance. I retired from corporate finance when I had my daughter. She's just starting first grade, so I'm like, this is a great time for me to get more involved in the community again. I'm running because Anacortes faces tough challenges. How do we deal with housing affordability, growth, public safety, infrastructure, all while keeping the small town character that we all love? These are very complex questions, and my approach is more simple. I listen carefully, I ask the right questions, I do the work, and I follow through. I spent years successfully doing that in for-profit, nonprofit, corporate, and small businesses, and I'm ready to bring that same commitment to public service. My guiding principle is balance, balancing growth with preservation, fiscal responsibility with community needs, and today's choices with tomorrow's consequences, and to make thoughtful investments that serve the whole community in the long term. I look forward to speaking with you all this evening and to hearing all points of view from my fellow candidates. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Carolyn Moulton, and I currently serve as your city council member. It's great to see so many familiar faces here and new ones as well. And thank you for all the Dems and my fellow candidates. It's good that we're all here, and I think it might be a kind of a relief to all of us to be doing this finally. It feels good to be here. And I'm sure you'll be very forgiving of any of our missteps and errors. So I've been serving on the Anacortes City Council for 6.5 years. I am currently Mayor Pro Tem, which means that I act in the role of mayor when the mayor is unavailable for whatever reason, which so far has been mostly running council meetings, which is fascinating and fun and interesting always. Also meeting with department heads to talk about what's going on with the city, so staff relationships there in that role. And also ribbon cuttings, which is where I first met Luke. It was the ribbon cutting for Bar by the Sea. So I'm running again because this is the most rewarding job I've ever had. It's very challenging, but it is more rewarding actually than it is challenging. And I like a challenge. I like to work hard. I'm a diligent worker, and I am excited about the work. And I'm excited about communicating with people, and I do that all the time. I owned a successful Anacortes business for 13 years, Bike Spot, and during the recession, during COVID, and we were still successful during that, and I really understand what it's like to be a downtown business owner and the challenges that they face. So my experience on the Council Finance Committee, the Public Works Committee, and the Planning Committees, also Housing Affordability and Community Service, have given me a great insight and really good working knowledge and relationships in those situations with people that are concerned about those things. Also, I've built relationships countywide with other legislators, other council members, mayors, and all 3 county commissioners working on boards and committees like Skagit Transit, also the North Star Advisory Board, which works on housing and behavioral health services. Thank you. Teresa, we'll start with you for the second question. Everybody gets their turn. Teresa, what do you think is the most pressing question facing the city now? And should you become our next council member, what are your proposed solutions or approaches to the problem you identify?
Well, let's see. I started advocacy for housing back in 2019. I was asked to join the board of directors with the Anacortes Family Center and served on that board for 4 years. And even in 2019, when my kids were waiting for housing through Section 8, it was still almost a year before we were going to be able to get in. And still, in 2025, that's still what we're asking our community. It's still the pressing issue. So me joining City Council and understanding what are the hurdles, how can I help, is one of the reasons why I wanted to join, because it's something that, you know, a lot of our community members have been asking me still, and I don't have the right answers. So I'm thinking it's going to take, you know, a lot of community and a lot of communication and a lot of connecting with other communities that, you know, have faced similar challenges in collaboration. I don't think it's just going to be a one-person answer. I think it's going to take all of us. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll repeat the question. What do you see as the most pressing question facing the city at this time? And should you be our next council member, what is your approach to solutions?
Thank you. So I would agree. I think the thing we hear most about is housing and housing affordability. Anyone that was at the Planning Commission last week and is also in the paper saw that pretty much everyone that's reading the comp plan is talking about housing affordability. The other 6 chapters I don't even think were discussed at the Planning Commission. There is a lot going on with that. You know, I know that there's the North Star Initiative is really trying to do that. The HACS committee's been working on that. I would love to bring some new thoughts and new ideas to the table. A couple of things that I've looked at related to the housing authority that we have here in Anacortes. I would love to see a more robust housing authority, especially on their website. If anyone has a chance to visit the Nevada Rural Housing Authority, we are considered rural here in Anacortes. Take a look at that. They have so many resources on there. I'd love to see just even our housing authority website beefed up a little bit. There's an idea, I probably will get grief for this. King County actually uses LTAX funds for workforce housing. LTAC is the lodging tax funds. They have created another way to use their LTAC funds. I think that's a great thing for Skagit County to look at. I don't know if we ever have. I've not seen anything that we've ever looked at LTAC funds. Let me be clear, this is not an additional tax. It is using the existing lodging tax funds and giving us another way to use those. But talking about balance, right now, LTAC funds are very much tied up with the event center. So that's the balance. Which one is the thing that we need the most in the community? The last thing is looking at other communities. North Vancouver, BC, very interesting idea in terms of ADUs and freezing property assessed values if you rent below market. So just some ideas that I'd love to explore more as a city council member. Thank you.
And Carolyn.
So definitely housing, that's major. We hear about that daily. And the city council, the existing city council, has done a lot of work to lower barriers and incentivize development closer to services and smaller units also. So that if you have a larger house, say out on the west side, and you would like to downsize, there's currently not really a spot for you to do that. So that was one of the reasons in our last set of development regulations, we added a height bonus that resulted in Fidalgo flats, because about half of those units are under 600 square feet, and they filled up immediately, and they stay full, and they're relatively reasonably priced compared to most things in Anacortes. We've had a public works director live there, small business owners, et cetera. So we'll continue to work on those initiatives. How do we incentivize housing infill in the commercial district near Commercial Avenue and lower one of the things that we've done is eliminated general facilities charges for affordable housing. So when the Family Center built their most recent building, they didn't have to pay to hook up to water and sewer, and that took a huge amount of money off the top of their costs. So that was really helpful. So we'll continue to work on that, as well as design design standards being very clear so everyone knows what is required before you go build something, so the neighbors know what it will look like. Design standards that fit what we want for our town. And those need to be clear, and so people can follow them and people know what they are. So we're doing a really good job with that, and we will continue to improve that during our comp plan process, which is great to see a lot of people starting to participate in that. And the pro-housing people are showing up, which is new because in the past, there haven't been as many of those showing up. So we are looking for public comment from everyone. Thank you.
Last but not least, I think public safety in general also encompasses affordable housing, right? Like, so to me, it is a public safety issue. I think, again, along the lines of what other people have said, comp plan is a great way for people to give feedback. I think what's important in this process to strike a balance, and it is to get public engagement, because I really do believe that change comes from the bottom up. And coming to these sessions, I spent the last year and a half working on the comp plan focused on these issues, and there's a lot that's going to come between now and the end of the year when the plan goes and the recommendations of the public go to City Council. I think that there are a lot of creative ideas that are addressed in the current comp plan that if you take a look at it, there, some of the stuff we've talked about, incentivizing infill, ADUs, looking at duplexes and triplexes and cottage housing. I think there's some ways we can go even further as we get closer, but I think what's big to me is making the process, as has been mentioned, really clear. So I think that some cities have successfully had, hey, here's 5 models that we have for ADUs that the public has provided input in that complement the character of the city that have a 24-hour turnaround time in permitting. I think where we have a lot of issues right now is in permitting, and there's a lot of opportunity there to streamline things there. And it goes as far as touching, get the time here, us being able to afford everything we do as a city, because sales tax, real estate, all of that has so much to do with how the city makes its money and how it provides the good services it does. So this can actually affect things in a positive way, providing more housing, doing it in a way that's predictable and easier, and then more housing means more affordable housing. And I know we're right now at the same moment that, again, there's a housing symposium going on, but again, affordable housing is creating the opportunity for more housing to be built in a way that complements the character of the city. And so there's a great opportunity for my time's out for public input now.
I have a quick follow-up for you, Luke. We should clarify. The question was, what do you think the most pressing question facing the city is? What is it? Is it public safety? Is it housing? You've just given us a lot of information, but I don't have a clear sense of what you think your top priority is.
Yeah, it is public safety, but with that.
Okay.
Yeah. I would say housing is at the top of the list when it comes to public safety. So that's more clear.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Shay.
Okay. Courtney, you're first up at bat. I'm going to pursue housing a little bit more, and each of you has already said a lot of important things about housing, so my questions may be a little bit duplicative, make of them what you can. If you believe that the city needs to increase density in order to promote housing growth, and I think I've heard you all say you do. If I'm wrong, please correct me. What will you say to constituents who are concerned about density in their own neighborhood? For example, duplexes in Old Town or other spaces. What happened with Habitat for Humanity? How will you address your constituents' concerns?
There is an amazing Wall Street Journal article. I've got it. We just sent you guys the link afterwards. Fairfax, California, this came out 2 days ago, is dealing with the exact same problem that we are dealing with. Small town, that people want some density, some people don't want the density. Their mayor says we are literally walking a tightrope. We don't know which way we're going to fall off. We're going to fall. We just don't know which way it's going to go. So this is not something that just Anacortes is dealing with. In terms of density, I think we need to be smart about it. I think that there does need to be public notice and public discussion for multiple or multi-unit housing in new neighborhoods that normally doesn't have it. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that people like to know what's going on. People like to feel like they're being heard. There could be opportunities for more collaboration with the neighbors. But I would say there needs to be discussions with the neighbors, regardless if the zone is already there. If you're going to put a triplex in Old Town, I'm an Old Town resident, if you're going to put a triplex in there, I would like to know what it looks like, what the parking is going to be, how it's going to impact my neighborhood. And I think that should be citywide. And I know that a lot of people just want it to happen. They don't want to deal with that. But I think that's how we get this to work, is by people understanding what's happening, being able to understand the process. And maybe it still happens, but people feel a lot better, I think, if they feel like they've had a voice. And so that's how I would address the constituents about if they don't want the density, is that we have to do something. Our comp plan says that we need to plan for 5,000 new residents in the next 20 years, which is a lot. If we don't plan for it, it could come in a way that we don't want it to, and then we kind of lose our voice as to how we can plan for it. So I think public comments and public engagement with the neighbors is very important. Thank you.
Carolyn.
So now is a great time to make your voices heard about the comp plan and about the upcoming development regulations. A state that's hard on its heels. Both of those are due by the end of the year. And we moved away from conditional use permits because they take a lot of time and they end up being non-objective decisions made by city council members. So our goal as a city council is to make our zoning and our design standards very clear and understandable so people know what they are and they can follow them. So that means that we don't, as a council, make a decision on every single project, which is time-consuming, inefficient, and just not good government. So this is a really good time to contribute your thoughts, and we do have design standards to fit in with the neighborhoods that they will be in, and if you don't like them, you can voice those thoughts and have be part of the conversation as we do that, because we want our zoning and our code to make those decisions for us, and that's a work in progress, and we need your help with that. But once we have the code, the city council doesn't need every project coming before it and deciding project by project. That's just not successful. That just hasn't worked in the past. Permitting, I also want to just touch on too, because it has been almost, I don't want to use a really bad word, but it's been pretty bad. It's been pretty bad over the past few years, and we've heard a lot about that from people, and they're absolutely right. So the city has hired a consultant to go over all the processes that we have and how to improve them. Also interviewing people who have used the permit process, and we are going to make it better.
Can you say the question one more time to make sure it was? Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I think it was. Okay, perfect. How to address the constituents regarding changes when it comes to affordable housing. First of all, I think that every neighbor should expect some change in neighborhood, but no neighborhood should expect drastic change. And I think part of this process is, as Carolyn mentioned, having a lot of public feedback, and we are having that as a city right now. And so having more voices, contributing ideas, it's important. There's a lot of examples of cities that have done this successfully, but not without a lot of input. And so if the residents of Anacortes aren't actively engaged, it won't have the same impact. But some things that have been done, allowing single-family home conversions to duplex or triplex by right, and adding ADUs and so forth again, design standards and stuff figured out in advance, or having templated things, but that's giving homeowners the opportunity, especially the senior population that needs to look for housing to get out of larger homes, to potentially have additional income or move into a smaller residence. It's worked for some communities. Will it work for ours? I don't know, but that's where we're getting this feedback. But I think if the community can come and be heard, and it was exciting this last session where we had people out here talking about affordable housing as a comp plan with a lot of great ideas, we'll have an engaged community around these issues. I don't sit here with the perfect answer. I don't think any of us do, but I know the council is working really hard on that, and I'm excited to continue to be part of the discussion.
Boy, thank you. I heard somebody once say, if we all start thinking out of the box, we'll all be liberated. And I love that saying. You can't marginalize housing by buying a new home or a single-wide home. When you're somebody in my situation financially, and along with, members of the AFC that have been in their program, I wasn't ready to buy a home. Financially, there was no way I could. Same with Habitat for Humanity. I didn't qualify for that program because of my medical debt. My idea would be creating more affordable apartments to help people become ready financially, economically, to go out and buy a single home. But most of the people that I've been talking to don't make, over $40,000. They're making $38,000 and, raising children. So my housing idea is to help people in our community get to a point where they can afford a single-wide home. So thank you.
Thank you, all of you. Difficult question, nobody's got the magic answer. We've been sitting here for an hour. I'm going to suggest that we take a 7-minute break, because I can't figure out it should be 5 or 10. 7-minute break, and then we're going to resume. I have some more questions that are a little more difficult, I think. And then we're going to be looking at whatever questions you in the audience have submitted to us. Cookies and coffee in the back, candidates in front.